Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur, Bhakta Ki Jai. Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Shri Radhe, Shri Radhe, Shri Radhe. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Mādhava, Kesava, Hare. Srivasadi Gaur. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda की जय. नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण. हमारी ऑडियो पर माता जी? हरे कृष्णा.
Yes, माता जी.
Sorry माता जी, I thought. Okay. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. श्री गुरु महाराज की जय. All glory to the assembled devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Yashmati from Chicago, once again welcoming all of you to the mid-morning japa session. I thank all of you for attending this session and giving your very valuable time and association. Please forgive me for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. Let us move to our next part of the session, which is Sri Caitanya Bhagavata. May I know who all have joined Mataji this morning?
हरे कृष्ण यशोदा माता जी. दंडवत प्रणाम. शिला प्रभुपाद की जय. गुरु महाराज की जय. प्रीति दासी फ्रॉम शार्लोट. हरे कृष्णा.
हरे कृष्ण प्रीति माता जी. Dandavat pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much Mataji for joining every day. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा. Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karuna Devi Dasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Karuna Devi Dasi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much Mataji for joining every day and giving your beautiful services. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Gary in Montana.
Hare Krishna, Gary Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much Prabhuji, joining every day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam to you and all Vaishnava. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Vrinda.
Hare Krishna Vrinda Gopika Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much Mataji for joining every day and beautiful association. Mataji, are you okay? Are you feeling okay now?
Yes Mataji, but still it take 1 more month. Just came from doctor office.
Oh, may Krishna will help you and everything okay. Hare Krishna.
All mercy of Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada, this is Preeti Vilasini Devidasi. Good morning, everyone. From Atlanta, sorry.
Hare Krishna Priti Vilasini Devi Dasi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much Mataji for joining every day and giving your beautiful services. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranams. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharajas and all the assembled Vaishnavas. This is Kirtida Sundari Dasi.
Hare Krishna Kirtida Sundari Dasi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining every day and giving your beautiful services. Hare Krishna. Eagerly waiting for your class. Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavats Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Uttara from Atlanta.
Hare Krishna Uttara Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining every day, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Excuse me, Mataji, I am not able to hear you. Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to Shri
Mataji?
Now I can, now I can hear you, Mataji.
Mataji?
Yes,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Mataji. And
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga.
Mataji, I am from Kanyakumari district, Mataji, Dr. Kartagodi.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mataji, for attending from Kanyakumari. So before we start our session for today, I would like to read the Srila Prabhupada's quote for today. Sometimes somebody takes his bird in the field and lets him loose out of the cage. And the bird goes and then again comes back into the cage. This human form of life, just like being let loose. Now you get the freedom of flying away from this cage of birth and death, but that will not do. We will enter again. We are not interested how to get out of the cage. We are again and again coming back to the cage. Calcutta, March 9, 1972. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Today we are so fortunate to have Her Grace Kirtida Sundari Dasi Mataji on the topic of Sri Caitanya Bhagavata Adi Khanda, chapter 17, verse number 28 onwards. Thank you very much, Mataji, for giving your beautiful association. Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Shri Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, again for giving your very valuable and association to us this morning and enlightening us on this topic of Sri Caitanya Bhagavata. I now hand over call to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you so much for your very, very kind and warm welcome. Thank you each and every one of you for joining us, especially Mataji joining from Kanyakumari. So thank you so much for your wonderful, wonderful association and all those who are joining us locally from here. Really, really grateful to all of you. So let's start. And we will start with invocation prayers and then we'll start our Caitanya Bhagavata session. Oh
Hare
my
Krishna Mataji. Sorry for disturbing you, Mataji. Okay, yeah, I just wanted you to stop the screen share. That's all. Hare Krishna.
No worries. Om Ajnanaatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate. Sorry, I messed up, I think. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्ण भक्तरूप स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्नाय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्वसे नमः वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे गुरुवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालय कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः आनंद लीलामय विग्रहाय हेमादिव्य छवि सुंदराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसाप्रदाय चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते आजानुलंबित भुजौ कनकावदातौ संकीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजवरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरौ करुणावतारौ जयति जयति देवा कृष्ण चैतन्य चंद्र जयति जयति कीर्तिस्तस्य नित्य पवित्र जयति जयति भृत्यास्तस्य विश्वेश्वमूर्ते जयति जयति नित्य तस्य सर्वप्रियाणाम्. We'll sing one more stanza in glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. कृष्णात् कीर्तन गान नर्तन कला पाथो जनी भ्राजिता सत्भक्तावली हंस चक्र मधुपा श्रेणी विहारास्पदम् कर्णानन्दिकलाध्वनिर्वहतु मे जीवामरुप्राङ्गणे श्री चैतन्य दयानिधि तव रसा श्री चैतन्य दयानिधि रसतला लासा लीला सुधा स्वरधुनी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंगायते गिरिं यत्कृपहातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So let's start with our Shri Caitanya Bhagavat. So we are in chapter number 17 of Adi Khanda, which is the last chapter. Let me share my screen. And today we will start with text number 28. Yeah. So we are in the section where Mahaprabhu is going to Gaya, because chapter entitled is Lord Travels to Gaya. This is Adi Khanda, Caitanya Bhagavat Adi Khanda, chapter number 17. Text number 28. So we'll start today. So what we covered is that Caitanya Mahaprabhu, after taking permission from his mother Shachi, he decided to go to Gaya to perform the Shraddha ceremony, offering oblations to his forefathers and father. So he took some of his students and he started to Gaya. And we saw last time that how Mahaprabhu enacted this drama of having fever. And we saw various reasons for which Mahaprabhu enacted this play, this drama, this pastime, where Mahaprabhu got the fever. And finally, all the students, all the associates of Mahaprabhu who were there, they were trying their level best for the fever to come down, but all their methods that they employed were totally failure. And finally, Mahaprabhu himself said that this is the remedy, go and bring the water that has washed the lotus feet of the pure Brahmanas. And as soon as Mahaprabhu drank that water, his fever was over, right? And he was cured. So now we'll continue, text 28. Hena mate kari prabhu jware vinasha puna puna tirthe ashi haila prakasha. So after being hena mate, in this way, after drinking the water that has washed the lotus feet of all the Brahmanas, after drinking this water, Mahaprabhu's jwara vinash, Mahaprabhu's fever got cured, right? His jwara vinasha. And puna, and then tirtha ashi haila prakash. And then the Lord, along with his students, he came to a holy river, tirtha, the place of pilgrimage, the holy river, that is Punpana river. He came to that place. And Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur describes about this Punpana tirtha, which refers to the Punpana river. And this river is famous in two places, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes. First is near the Panpan station, which is near the Patna, that is Patna-Gaya line. And the second is near Pamaraganja station, which is at the Gradkot line. So travelers, they do come and they offer and they take bath in this Punpana river. And that's what our Mahaprabhu did. Snana kari pitra deva kariya archana gayate pravishta haila Shri Sachinandana. So after taking bath in that Punpan river and offering oblations to his father, Shri Sachinandana, Gaurahari, he entered Gaya. So Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur again writes that Shri Gaurasundar purified himself by taking bath and displayed the pastime of offering oblations to his forefather according to the Karma Khanda injunctions in order to fulfill his debts to his forefathers. So last time we saw that how when the child is born, he is already into that 5 rin, right? And one of the rin is towards the forefathers. Though it's a Karma Khanda activity, but Mahaprabhu did this so that, to establish, first of all, the protocol, and then, to bewilder the smartas who are attached to the fruitive activities. Because for Mahaprabhu, it was no need to perform all this. But yad acharati shreshthas, right? When a leader performs, the common men follow. And that's what Mahaprabhu wants. So yes, as we have already been heard, we have discussed that for a pure devotee who is 100% in Krishna consciousness, who has the full faith that Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishwasa Palana, then definitely they don't have to follow all these karma khanda activities or offering oblations to the forefathers or pleasing the demigods. They are in no debt at all. Why? Because they are 100% fully surrendered to Krishna. And if we feel that we are on that line, then yes, we are also exempted from all those. So that's again an introspective thing on our own self, that we have to introspect at how much Krishna conscious we are, how much pure, on the level of pure devotee we are. And that way we can decide. But otherwise, we should perform all these activities. Gaya Tirtha Raje Prabhu Pravishta Haiya Namaskari Lena Prabhu Shikara Judiya. And as the Lord entered Gaya, the king of holy places, what he did? Namaskari Lena. He offered his namaskar, his obeisances. How? Shri Kara Judiya. Shri means his folded lotus hands. Kara means hands. Shri means lotus hands. And Judiya means Jodkar, folded hands. This way he offered his obeisances. Brahme kunde ashi prabhu kari lana snana yatha chata kaila petra devera samana. And then what Mahaprabhu did? He did Brahma Kund. He went to Brahma Kund and he took snan, karila snan. He took bath and yatha chata karila. Petra deva saman. And after that, after doing snan, bathing, after taking bath, he offered oblations to his forefathers. Right? So Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur also says that whenever one should go to any kind of places, one should make sure that we should take bath and then only enter into any dham or any pilgrimage. Tabe ailena chakra vedera bhitare pada padma dekhi bare chalila satvare. The Lord then entered Chakraveda and quickly went to see the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So the word Chakraveda refers to Gaya Tirtha. This is where the lotus feet of Vishnu are situated. So see, Gaya is not some random place where you just, there is a ground where you can go and offer your oblations, or there is a river that you can go and offer oblations to your forefathers. Again, the point is stressed that how we have to offer these oblations to our forefathers is to give the remnants of Lord Vishnu. So center Vishnu should always be there, right? And this is what Mahaprabhu depicted. He went to Gaya Tirtha and there were the lotus feet of Vishnu that were there, and Mahaprabhu went and offered his obeisances. And now Vrindavan Das Thakur is describing about those lotus feet of Vishnu that were there in that Gaya, the Gaya Tirtha. Vipragana Vediyache Shicharana Sthana Shicharane Mala Yena Dvila Pramana. So Vipragana Vediyache, that lotus feet of Vishnu, that Vedi, the place that was there where the Lord Vishnu's footprints were there. Vipragana, that was surrounded by all the Brahmanas. Shri Charanasthana, that place where the Lord Vishnu's lotus footprints were there. And Shri Charane Mala, and that Shri Charan was stacked by mala, by the flower garlands, Yena Dvila Pramana, right? And then Prabhupada writes that what is Dvila? It is derived from the Sanskrit word Devakula, means the house of the Lord or a temple. So countless flower garlands were stacked in that temple dome of Lord Vishnu's footprints, and it was surrounded by all the sides by Brahmanas. Gandha Pushpa Dhupa Deepa Vastra Alankara Kata Padi Yache Lekha Jokha Nahi Tahara. And that lotus feet, footprints of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, a lot of things were offered. What was offered? Gandha, that is the sandalwood paste. Pushpa, that is flowers. Dhup, that is incense. Deepa, that is the deeptan, that is the lamp. Vastra, cloths, and alankar, lot of ornaments, kada paiche, and they were offered to that lotus feet. And lekha jokha nahi tara. Lekha jokha is actually a colloquial language, right? Lekha means kuch likhna, means to write, and jokha Actually, in Hindi, jokha means to weigh something. So something that can be written, that can be weighed is actually countable, right? It's something you can write that, okay, this much was there, and this many flowers were offered, this many deeps were offered. So you can write it down. And moreover, how much fruits are offered, you can count or you can weigh, right? Or how many flowers are offered, you can count or you can weigh. Something that is measurable, you can say, right? But lekha jokha nahi tara means countless of sandalwood paste and flowers and incense and cloth was being offered at the lotus feet of that of Vishnu's lotus footprints. Lekha jokha nahi tara means you cannot even mention that how much number or how much quantity or how much weight was there of the items. Means it was countless. It was immeasurable. Lekha jokha nahi tara. You cannot write it down. You cannot measure. You cannot weigh anything. It was countless. Countless amount of gandha, pushpa, dhupa, deepa, vastra, and alankar were offered to that lotus footprints of Lord Shri Vishnu. Chaturdike divya rupa dhari vipragana karite che pada padma prabhava varnana. The Brahmanas appeared like divine beings. The Brahmanas those were surrounding that place, they were appearing like the divine beings as they described the glories of the Lord's lotus feet. So continuously the glories of Lord's lotus feet were sung by the Brahmanas, and it was appearing as these Brahmanas are not the ordinary mere mortal souls, but rather they were some divine beings, because the divine songs in glorification of the Lord's lotus feet were coming out from their mouth. Kashi Natha Hridaya Dhara Lina Ye Charana Niravadi Lakshmi Rajivana. Very beautifully Vrindavan Das Thakur writes that this is the same lotus feet that Lord Vishnu, Kashi Nath Hridaya Dharila, that Lord Shiva, he accepted the same lotus feet in his heart. And Ye Charana, and these are the same lotus feet, Niravadi Lakshmi Rajivana, which are constantly served by Lakshmi. Niravadi, Avadi means time. And Niravadi means constantly, beyond time. So we see that how Sri Lakshmi is always engaged in massaging the lotus feet of Lord Sri Vishnu. So Vrindavan Das Thakur is writing that these feet you should not think is some an imitation, but these are the same lotus feet of Lord Vishnu that is being held by Lord Shiva in his heart, and that is being massaged by Sri Lakshmi always, constantly by her. She constantly massages those lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So these are the same Lord Vishnu lotus feet. And these are the same lotus feet which Bali Shire Avirbhava Haila Yecharana Se Dekhayata Bhagyavanta Jana. These lotus feet are the same lotus feet that were placed on the head of Bali Maharaj. And we know this pastime, that how Bali Maharaj, when he accepted that he will give 3 steps to that Vamana Brahman, to Vamana Dev, and he was not able to give any place where he can put his 3rd step, and then Bali Maharaj said, well, I am there. You can place your lotus feet on my head. And finally, Vamana Dev did. So these are the same lotus feet that was placed on the head of Bali Maharaj. Oh, fortunate soul, now see those same lotus feet are here. So we should have that vision, and we should have that bhav to see those lotus feet in the same context. Tilar dekho ye charana dhyana kali matra yama tara nahaena adhikara patra. Tila means the sesame seed, means even for a tila matra, even for a moment, if somebody comes, and see these lotus feet, one who meditates on this lotus feet, dhyana kaila, if someone meditates on this lotus feet of Sri Vishnu, how long? Tilardhiko means even for a moment as compared to the sesame seed. Yama tara nahaina adhikara patra. Then Yamaraj has no adhikar. Then that living entity doesn't become a vessel in which Yamaraj can have his feast. Right? So Yamaraj has no adhikar on that living entity, means that living entity is beyond the jurisdiction of Yamaraj. Means Yamaraj doesn't come. Only Vishnudutas will come. For those who just, even for a moment, meditates on the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, Lord Shri Vishnu. Yogeshwara sabara durlabha ye charana se dekhayata bhagavanta jana. These lotus feet are rarely obtained even by the best of yogis. O fortunate souls, now see those lotus feet same. Those same lotus feet are here. Right? So we'll stop here because it's the same theme. So we can continue with text number 40 tomorrow. So I just want to ask now, anyone who wants to say that what was the actual theme that was going on in this entire few verses that we read? Anyone wants to unmute and say? I hope I'm not making everybody sleep. So what was the theme that was going on in these verses, if you have heard?
The big glorification of the Lord's lotus feet.
Yes, very good, Indulekha Karuna Mataji. Thank you. Yes, the description of Lord's lotus feet is being described, that how glorious is the Lord's lotus feet. And sometimes we see that how come always the Lord's feet are being described as lotus? What is the reason that, always Mahaprabhu, always Krishna's feet are being described as the lotus feet? Why they are called the lotus feet. So in this regard, first of all, we know that why he is known as, it's known as the lotus feet is definitely because Krishna's feet are very soft, are pink like lotus. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, Mataji.
No worries. So Krishna's feet are pink like lotus, and definitely they are very soft like a lotus petal. So this is one of the reasons we know that his angri, his feet are known as pankajangri, right? Just like Mother Kunti prays. So this is the first reason. But Prabhupada gives another reason, and this is in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, where he describes, this is in the 16th chapter, Canto 1, chapter 16 and verse 6, Prabhupada writes, why Krishna's lotus feet are known as lotus feet. The spiritual planet Golok Vrindavan is the eternal abode of Lord Shri Krishna, we all know. And this Golok Vrindavan is shaped like a whirl of a lotus flower. So even when the Lord descends to any of the mundane planets, to any of this material existence, when the Lord descends, what he does? He comes with his parshads and he comes with his own abode. Right? Shri Krishna Caitanya Deva Jiva Daya Kori Swaparshada Suya Dhama Saha Avatari. Yes, when Mahaprabhu comes, when Lord Shri Krishna comes to this mundane planets, they come with Suya Dhama, they come with their Dham, and they come with their parshads, their intimate associates. So the Lord, who is already in Golok Vrindavan, which is shaped like a whirl of a lotus flower, and when he descends with his abode. So his feet are always on that big whirl of that lotus flower. He never takes a step out of those lotus flowers. Why? Because he comes with his dham. So his feet are always on that lotus flower. Therefore, Prabhupada says that Krishna's feet are always lotus feet. This is another reason that Prabhupada gives, that why Krishna's feet are always lotus. And we know that the beauty of the lotus feet is compared to a lotus flower. Why it is compared to the lotus flower? Because we know the lotus, it normally grows in the autumn season, right? So what happens then in autumn, when the rain comes, all the dirty and the muddy waters of the river, they become very clean. just by the rain. So in the summer season, the rain itself makes the water dirty. But in the autumn season, when the rain comes, the same water, the water of rivers and lakes, they become very clean. And at that time, the lotus flower start growing in the lakes, and they appear very, very beautiful and very, very bright. They are being washed by the rains of autumn, and everything looks so green, so washed, so beautiful, so peaceful. Right? So the lotus flower itself is compared to the lotus feet of the Lord. And the petals of the lotus flower, they are compared to the nails of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So the nails also look very, very bright, right? Even in Brahma Samhita, he says, Ananda Chinmaya Sadujjvala Vigrahasya, means all the limbs of the Supreme Lord, they are full of Ananda, Ananda Chinmaya. They are bright, they are eternally bright, every limb, Sad Ujjvala Vigrahasya, right? So that's why we say that everything that is compared with the Supreme Lord is lotus, right? Krishna's garland is lotus, Krishna's eyes are lotus, Krishna's navel is lotus, and Krishna's cheeks are lotus, and Krishna's feet are lotus, and Krishna's hand are lotus. Everything is lotus about Lord Shri Krishna. But what actually, we'll see what actually this lotus feet are. And that we will dive deep into Srimad Bhagavatam, because there was nothing much in this Caitanya Bhagavat to churn, to explore, maybe my limitation. But let's go into Srimad Bhagavatam and see that what are actually these lotus feet and how it is being compared. So I'll share my screen. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter number 5 and verse number 33. Very, very famous verse. You all must come across this verse many times. And in this it says, Dheyam sada paribhavagnan abhishtadoham tithaspadam shiva virinchinutam sharanyam vrityartiham pranatapala bhavabdipotam vande mahapurushati charana ravindam. So see, it says charana ravindam, right? Charana aravindam. Charana means the lotus feet, and feet, and Arvinda means the lotus, right? It says the lotus. So this verse actually appeared in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, where the Navayogendras, they all came to Maharaj Nimi. And Maharaj Nimi was asking different questions to all these Navayogendras. So finally, he asked the question to Nimi Maharaj asked this question, and Karbhajana Muni, who was one of the Navayogendra, he answered. So what question Maharaj Nimi asked? He asked that how in different yugas the Supreme Lord appears. And then Karbhajana Muni, he started answering that how in Satya Yuga he comes in a white complexion, then in Dwapar Yuga he comes in the black complexion, and then in Treta Yuga he comes in the red complexion. And finally Maharaj Nimi asked that what about this Kali Yuga? And then this Karbhajana Muni started saying that in Kali Yuga also he will come as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is actually one of the Pramāṇa also in Srimad Bhagavatam, which tells that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different from Krishna. He is the Channa avatar, the hidden incarnation that comes in Kali Yuga. Actually, Kali Yuga, avatar is Nam, is Harinam, right? Kali Kale Nama Rupa, Krishna avatar. In Nam Rup, Krishna takes his incarnation in Kali Kal. But the hidden incarnation, who distributes this Nam, is actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahi Anya. There is no difference between Lord Shri Chaitanya and Radha and Krishna together, the combined form. So this verse also is the Pramāṇa that describes, that gives the evidence, the Pramāṇa that in Srimad Bhagavatam it is mentioned that Mahaprabhu is the Channa avatar, is the hidden incarnation of Kali Yuga. And then in the last line, we'll start with Vande Mahapurusha Te Charana Ravindam. Vande means I bow down. I bow down to that Mahapurusha, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet, Charana Aravinda, to the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. And then he uses these, there are 7 adjectives that he used, that how beautiful these lotus feet are and what signifies this lotus feet. Right? So the first word he used, if you see in the first line, it's Dhyayam Sada. Dhyayam means dhyan karna, means I'll always meditate. Sada means always. I'll always meditate on this Charana Ravinda, on the lotus feet of Mahavishnu, of Mahapurusha, who is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? It can also be regarded to Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Lord, because Mahaprabhu is non-different from Krishna. But then the first adjective that is used is Paribhava Gnam. Right? So this lotus feet of Lord Vishnu or Mahaprabhu, they are so potent, right? They are so potent that it can help us to get rid from the cycle of birth and death. Just dhyan, just meditating on the lotus feet of Lord Sri Vishnu or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Lord, those who meditate, they will never ever enter into the womb of any mother. Right? That's what is it. How it is Paribhava Ghanam. Pari means to do parikrama. Right? We do parikrama. We go around. Parikrama means to go around. Right? We do circumambulate Tulsi Maharani. We circumambulate temple. So what are we doing? We are going around. So Paribhava. Bhava means this material world. Right? We say Bhava Sagar, Bhava Sindhu, Bhavabdi. So these are synonyms, right? Bhava actually starts with the word to become. When somebody in the previous ages, they give the benediction. How they give the benediction? Yashasvi Bhava, Kirtiman Bhava, means you become glorious, you become famous, right? Chiranjeevi Bhava, may you live longer. Right? So you become something. So definitely when we come into this material existence, we become something. We take shelter of 8,400,000 species of life. So we become something. So this existence is known as Paribhava. Why? Because we come here, when we go back, and then we come again. Right? It's just a non-stop thing. Just like today, Mataji was reading. Yashomati Mataji was reading this Prabhupada's quote. So Prabhupada's quote is the same. The bird is in the cage opens, the bird goes out, but again comes back into the cage. We always come in this material existence with a return ticket. But then Prabhupada says this human form of life is that thing in which the cage, when opens, you have the full ability to go out and never come back. We have that eligibility because this human form of life gives us this eligibility that we have this eligibility that we can go and we don't come back. We can just go without any return ticket, right? But again, it's up to us whether we take it seriously or not. That's a different issue, right? But human form gives this eligibility. Whether we take it or not is up to us. Whether we want to come here again and again with the return ticket, that's up to us. But human form gives us this eligibility, which is not even given even to the demigods. It's only the human form of life, not other species of life. Only the human form of life has this eligibility that when the cage gets open in this life, and it has the full freedom, the full independence to go back to the spiritual world, to fly and never to come back in this cage, right? So this is Paribhava, right? Paribhava, and the word says Paribhava Gnam. So Paribhava means coming back and forth in this material existence. And Gnam means to cut this cycle, right? When we say in Nectar of Devotion also, Rupa Goswami describes one of the characteristics of pure devotional service. And he says one of the characteristics of pure devotional service is Kleshagni. right? That it destroys. Gni means to destroy the kleshas of this Kali Yuga, to destroy the kleshas of this material existence. And what are those kleshas? Adi bhautik, adhyatmik, and adi daivik. These are the different kleshas that we are always entrapped in, right? And the pure devotional service gives us this facility that we can cut down all these kleshas. All these kleshas can be cut down, can be gna, can be destroyed. So the word is not klesha agni, it's klesha gni, right? So here also, if we see the words, it says paribhava gna. So this charana ravindam is actually used for all these phrases, right? So this lotus feet, one of the adjectile phrase for this charana ravindam is the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord is that it destroys. One who meditate always, sada, dhyanam sada, one who always meditate on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, what happened? Paribhava gnam. There is a cut. The cycle of birth and death is finally cut down. Means there is no birth and death again. Means when there is no birth and death means we are liberated. We don't come back to this material existence. So that is the first. Next is abhishtadoham. So this lotus feet of Charana Ravindam, this lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, what it gives? Abhishtadoham. Doham means to give, deha, to give, to bless, right? And abhishta, ishta means desire. Ishta means desire. And abhishta means the complete desire. And what is the complete desire of the human being? There are many desires that a human being can have. Dhanam dehi, putra dehi, and car dehi, ghar dehi. There are so many desires, we can have. All these material possessions that we can aspire for. But what is the abhishtadoham? What is the complete desire? The complete desire is Krishna Prem, is Radha Dasyam. So that complete desire we can achieve only by meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. That is another adjective, that is another benediction that is there just on remembering the lotus feet, meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So see how important it is that we should meditate on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Now, why only lotus feet? We all know, we have discussed this, that how it is called lotus feet. But why only lotus feet? Because Prabhupada also says that when we go to the temple, we should start seeing with the lotus feet. Actually, the lotus feet itself is complete. The devotees don't even need to see the face. The lotus feet itself is so captivating, it's so mesmerizing that if somebody really gets absorbed in the lotus feet of the Lord Shri Krishna, then he doesn't need to go on the upper limbs of the Supreme Lord. They are so potent, they are so complete in themselves. We saw that just by smelling the tulasi leaf which are there on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmavadis, the 4 Kumaras, became devotees of the Supreme Lord. So what more glory we need for the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord? And here Karbhajana Muni is giving so many examples of so many adjectives he is using just for this Charana-ravinda, for the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So we saw first is Paribhavagna, and next is Abhishtadoham, that is the second, that it bestows the complete desire that a jiva should have, and that is Krishna Prem. So just meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, we get the complete desire fulfilled, and we get Krishna Prem. Then third is Tirthaspadam, that is the third one. Why Tirthaspadam? So Tirtha, as we saw that how Mahaprabhu also, when he entered Gaya, so Vrindavan Das Thakur writes, it's Gaya Tirtha. Tirtha means the place of pilgrimage, right? The place of pilgrimage is known as Tirtha. But there is another meaning of Tirtha, and that is the pure devotees. The pure devotees are also known as Tirtha, right? And Aspadam means to take shelter. They are the abode. The heart of the pure devotees are the abode of the Supreme Lord. So they are Tirtha in one sense. And second meaning of Aspadam is also shelter. that we should take shelter of those pure devotees. They are non-different from the place of pilgrimage. Right? So, as we all know that Srimad Bhagavatam says, Bhavat Vida Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuya Swayam Vibhu Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani Swantas Tena Gadabhrita. This verse is actually spoken by Yudhishthira Maharaj to Vidur. When Vidurji came back after his pilgrimage yatra, at that time, Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he came back to Hastinapur, Yudhishthira Maharaj, then he quotes this verse that, O Vidurji, O Vidur Maharaj, you are Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani. You are the one who actually carry the Supreme Lord in your heart, and you turn all the places into the places of pilgrimage. In the Caitanya Bhagavata also, in the previous session, we saw that how when Mahaprabhu, he was traveling from Navadvip, from Bengal to Madhya Pradesh, to Gaya, which is in Madhya Pradesh. And the places where he was going, he was turning all those places into the places of pilgrimage. Those places have become the memories of the Supreme Lord, that Mahaprabhu traveled this route, right? So all places have become a places of pilgrimage. Devotee wants to follow those routes, right? So this is how this lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, wherever they are kept, that place itself becomes the place of pilgrimage. So you don't need to travel. Narottam Das Thakur says that there is no need to travel to different places of pilgrimage. Undoubtedly, there is so much trouble to go from one place to another. But one who is intelligent will take shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda and automatically be sanctified as the result of his pilgrimage. So just taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord encapsulates all our pilgrimage yatra. That Char Dham yatra or any Dham yatra is complete when we meditate. If we don't have the consciousness of Lord Supreme Lord's lotus feet, then no matter how much we travel to these pilgrimage yatras, it will have no result. So what is the ultimate thing is that when we go to such pilgrimage, when we go to some dham, we should sit at the lotus feet of the pure devotees and hear their Vani. Hear their Vani. Why? Because the pure devotees are non-different from Tirthas. Why? Because they carry the Supreme Lord in their heart. And when they carry the Supreme Lord in their heart, then what happens? They will give that Supreme Lord, that from heart to heart, it gets transferred. That Krishna from the heart of a pure devotees get transferred into the heart of the living entities. And finally, they get this benefit of doing all those tirthas. Why? Because they carry the Supreme Lord in the heart. In this regard, I just remembered that once His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was giving a Bhagavatam class. And there was one person, it was a temple, and as the curtains opened, one of the person, he stood up from the Bhagavatam class, he went and saw the lotus feet or saw the darshan of the Supreme Lord. And as he come back, Mahaprabhu said, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, so how was your eye exercise? It was an eye exercise. Why? Because when the pure devotee is speaking about Krishna, that itself is meditating on the Supreme Lord. You don't need to go anywhere, right? The Shravana that we do when the pure devotee speaks something, that itself is Tirtha, that itself is knowing about Lord Shri Krishna. So he said that, how was your eye exercise? Now, this doesn't mean that when we go to the temple, we don't see, but yeah, we should see the Supreme Lord. We should take darshan of the Supreme Lord. But at the same time, when the Bhagavatam class going on, or when somebody is on the Vyasasana, or any class, Bhagavad Gita class is going on, then we should sit and give our ears to that Vani that is being given. I've seen in our temple also, when especially in the Sunday time, when there is a Bhagavatam class is going on, when Maharaj is there or any pure devotee is there, and he's giving the Bhagavatam class, there are so many devotees who will circumambulate the temple. That is Pada Sevanam. It is one of the limb of devotional service. But at that time, especially when the Bhagavatam class is going on, it is just a leg exercise. It's just a leg exercise. Why? Because we are simply wasting our time and not meditating, not lending our ears to those Bhagavatam class. So how important it is to serve those devotees, to serve those pure devotees. How? By lending our ears. Hear from them. Get association from them. Hear about the Supreme Lord from them. It's only from them we will come to know about Krishna. Have we know about Krishna? No. Only when we took initiation, only when we surrendered to a pure devotee, only when we surrendered to a spiritual master, we came to know about Krishna. Who will guide us about Krishna? Nobody can guide us. It's only Guru, Sri Guru, who can give us Krishna. Right? And when we please Sri Guru, Krishna itself is pleased. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado yasya aprasadat nagati kutopi. So when we please our Sri Guru, Krishna is pleased. But when Sri Guru is not pleased, when we are not hearing Sri Guru, when we are not following the instructions of Sri Guru, na gati kutopi, there is no gati. We are doomed in our spiritual life. Right? So all these limbs are important, but we have to see the context, we have to see the time. So here also it says the third adjectile phrase that we saw is actually tirthaspadam, that one who takes shelter of these tirtha. Tirtha means the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord as well as the pure devotees. One who takes shelter, then they are always liberated. Then the fourth is Shiva Virinchi Nutam. Shiva Virinchi Nutam. What does it mean? Sharanyam. Shiva Virinchi Nutam Sharanyam. That's the entire phrase, right? So Shiva means Lord Shiva. And Virinchi, we know, Lord Brahma is known as Virinchi. Nutam means to bow down, and Sharanya means to take shelter. So they bow down and they take exclusive shelter of whom? Charana Ravindam, of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So how we see this? That Lord Shiva, we saw that in Ramalila he came as Hanuman, who was serving the lotus feet of Lord Ram. In Krishna Leela, we know that how Lord Shiva come as Dhameshwar Mahadev. He protects each and every dham of Vrindavan. He is a doorkeeper. He is a gatekeeper, right? And he comes and performs this service. In Gaur Leela, he comes as Advaita Acharya, right? Who is non-different from Lord Shiva. And Lord Brahma also, Virinchi also, we saw that how Srila Haridas Thakur, who is Lord Brahma, is also serving the lotus feet, is also meditating, Dheyam Sada Charana Ravindam, is also meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So even the personalities like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, when they meditate, so what to talk about us? So we should always meditate on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. This is one of the adjectile phrases used that even a personality, demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, when they take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, we should also take Krishna's shelter. And that's what Haridas Thakur says, Nirantar naam lo karo tulasi cha sevana achirat pave Shri Krishna charana. You will get Krishnera Charana. You will get the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. How? When Nirantara Namlo, when we constantly chant Krishna's name and Kara Tulasi Sevan. This is the instruction that was given by Haridas Thakur to Lakshahira, the prostitute who came to defame Haridas Thakur. But then finally, what? She took shelter. She took shelter of Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur initiated her and gave her this instruction, Nirantar naam lo karo tulsi sevan, achirat pave tave Krishnera charan. Achirat means chirkal, means for a long time. Achirat means very quickly. Very quickly you will get Krishna's charan. You will get the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. So see how important it is that one should meditate on the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. The fifth is used, if we see the verse, the fifth is used in the third line, Bhrityarti Ham. Right? Bhrityarti Ham. Bhrityarti Ham. What does it mean? Bhritya means servant. Right? Bhritya means servant. And Arti means the one who is very distressed. We know that how, even Bhagavad Gita says that how 4 classes of men surrender unto Krishna. And one is arthi, artharthi, jignasu, right? So one is arthi. Arthi means one who is distressed. And bhrityarthi means one, a devotee of Krishna or the servant of Krishna who is in distress. And bhrityarthi ham. Ham again means to destroy. It's not the word aham, it's ham. Ham means to destroy. So one who meditate always, dheyam sadacharana ravinda, one who always meditate on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, what happens? The Supreme Lord consider that devotee to his own servant. Because Krishna says, aham bhakta paradhina. Right? Krishna says, though I'm Swarat, though I'm Abhigna Swarat, as declared in the first verse of the first canto of the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, but still Krishna says that I am not Abhigna Swarat. I am not Swarat in that sense, but I am independent. I am dependent. I am dependent on whom? On my pure devotees. Right? I stay in their heart. Govinda Vishram Kare. Govinda Vishram is there in the heart of the pure devotees. So Bhrityaham, that servant, Krishna, he destroys the distress of his servants, one who takes shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. And we saw that in actually Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in this verse, we'll see later, he also presents that how the Brahmana Vipra, the Vasudeva Vipra, who was infected with leprosy, his leprosy was destroyed. His distress was destroyed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, seeing his devotion. Right? So this has also been mentioned in Chaitanya Leela. Anyways, let's come to the sixth phrase, that is Pranatapala. Pranatapala. Pranatapala is the sixth adjectile phrase that is being used in glorification of Krishna's lotus feet. Pala means to protect, palan karna, right? We know. And pranata means one who bows down, who bows down to Krishna's lotus feet even once, like in the previous verse we saw, that even for a shanama, even for a tilamatra, if we meditate on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then he destroys all our sinful reactions, right? So pranata means one who bow down to the Supreme Lord's lotus feet even once. Then what he does? He protects. Krishna protects. Just like in Ramayana also, when Vibhishan came and everybody was telling that, oh, Lord Ram, you should not give shelter to Vibhishan. He is from the opposite camp. Maybe he has come as a spy to know our, strategies of attacking Lanka. So you should not give him shelter. But Hanumanji said, no. Actually, he has seen when he was in Lanka, he saw that how Vibhishan was so dedicated in chanting Ram, 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 Ram. So at that time, Lord Rama says, Sakradeva prapannayas tavasmiti yachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etad vratam mama. That this is my vrata, this is my vow, that Sakradeva prapannayas. Even for once, if somebody surrenders into me and say that I am yours, tavasmiti yachate, he calls out and say, oh Lord Ram, oh Krishna, I am yours. From today, I am yours. Even if somebody says, abhayam sarvada tasmai, I'll make him fearless. And this is my vrata, dadami etad vratam mama. So Lord Ram says that even once if somebody bows down, I accept. So he says, what to talk about Vibhishan? Even if Lankapati, if Ravan would have come and surrendered to me once and said, Tavasmiti yachate, that, I am yours. From today onwards, I am yours. I would have forgiven all his offenses, all his faults I would have forgiven. So this is what he says, that those who take shelter of the Krishna's lotus feet, Krishna gives all protection. Even in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam e vashyasi yuktaivam atmanam mad parayana. That definitely, surely that person will come to me. One who thinks of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me. This is what is namaskaru. And he worship me, madhyaji. who worships me, who performs all these activities, Krishna declares that he will surely, evashyasi, he will definitely come to me. So how important it is that when we offer obeisances to Lord Shri Krishna and we meditate at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. So it's very, very important that as soon as we see the Supreme Lord, as soon as we see the pure devotees, we should offer our obeisances. And that's what our Shat Goswamis explains. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has this thing that every day he would pay 2,000 obeisances to Vaishnavas and 1,000 obeisances to the deities. Every day, that was his niyam. That was his niyam. And whatever he does, he'll do according his niyam. As per his niyam, he will do. That is what the standard of Raghunath Das Goswami was. And not only him, all our Shat Goswamis, Srinivasa Acharya writes in his Shat Goswami Ashtakam that how Shat Goswamis also, whatever they do with niyam, with rules and regulations, and with the count. With the count they will do. Sankhya purvak naam gaan natibhi kalavasani kritau. That's what Srinivasa Acharya writes, that Sankhya purvak, with counts, all the Shat Goswamis, how will they kalavasani, how they will pass their time? By Sankhya Purvak, Naam, taking the name of the holy name, taking the name of Krishna, Gan, singing the glories of Krishna, Natabhi, and offering their obeisances to Krishna. So how important it is that when we take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, when we pay obeisances. So when we pay obeisance, actually, what are we doing? We are touching the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas. We are bowing down to their feet only. Right? Paying obeisances not with Kritanjali, not with folded hands. This way, we are not sure that we are really bowing down to their lotus feet. But when we bow down, doing pranams, dandavat pranams, that's what, we are bowing down to their lotus feet. So it is very, very important that we should offer our obeisances to Krishna and to the pure devotees. And finally is Bhavabdhi Potam. That is the last phrase of this Bhavabdhi Potam, right? So Bhavabdhi Potam, we discussed. Abdhi means ocean. Bhava, we have already discussed, this material existence. And Potam becomes the boat. So this is the classic adjective that is being used, that how the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, they are the boat on which we can cross over this material existence, this ocean of material existence. This material existence is not a material, ordinary, some river or sea that we can simply cross. It's an ocean with sharks, whales, so many aquatic animals, which are obstacles in our path, which are the obstacles. But it is very easy. You cannot swim across. You cannot. On our own, you cannot. Right? So you need to have the mercy of Lord Shri Krishna. And mercy of Lord Shri Krishna, mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in the form of a boat. Right? And that boat is actually their lotus feet. When we jump onto that boat, it is very, very easy to cross over that material existence. Right? So in this regard, Brahmaji also offered his prayers after Brahma Vimohana Leela. He offered his prayers and he says, Samashritaye pad pallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murare bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yad vipadam natesham. What Brahma is saying, that this Samashrita, this entire cosmic manifestation, right, is there, but yad pada pallava plavam, but those who have accepted the boat. What is the boat? The lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. One who has taken the shelter of this boat, well, and of whom Yasho Murari, of Murari, who is the enemy of Muradivan. Then what happened? Bhavam Buddhir, this entire ocean of world become Vatsapadam. It becomes the water that is contained in the calf's hoof print, right? And how easy it is that even a small boy can jump over. right? A small child can also jump over on the calf's, or the water, the puddle that is there as compared to the calf's lotus feet, the calf's feet. Now, it's so easy to jump over. This entire material existence, it becomes like a water contained in a calf's hoof print. And this boat is Krishna's lotus feet. And when we take shelter of this, it is so easy to cross over. Otherwise, he says, padam padam yat vipadam nateshan. Otherwise, in this material existence, there is danger at every step. Every step there is a danger. So it's very difficult to cross over. But one who takes shelter of the lotus feet, sada dhyanam sada charana ravindam, one who takes shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, then it becomes so easy to cross over. Why? Because these lotus feet are the boat. And when we take shelter of this boat, it's very easy, right? With the boat, you can cross over the ocean. It's so easy to do it, right? So this is the entire explanation. And this is whatever I spoke is from the purport, because it's a pretty long, extensive purport that is being given by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And the additional notes are also given by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we'll read through the notes quickly and then we'll end up. So dhyayam, it says the word indicated the word dhimahi. We all know, those who are second initiated, and they know that the word dhimahi is used in the Gayatri mantra, and it is expected by the Brahmanas, by the so-called second initiated devotees, that they should meditate on each and every Gayatri mantra properly. And that is what is dhyayam. Dhyayam means your mind should be absorbed in that. So how when you meditate on those Gayatri mantras, so here also it's saying that you should dhyayam sada charana ravindam. And this way we should always meditate on the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. Tirthaspadam, the original shelter of the Lord, holy places headed by Shri Gaurashetra and Vrajamandal as the original shelter. Why? Because these are the places of pilgrimage. But namely the lotus feet of the Lord, of the great devotees of the Brahma Sampradaya, following in the succession of faithful hearing. This is also very important. We should take shelter of the devotees also, right? The succession of faithful hearing begins with Srimad Madhvacharya and is continued by Rupanuga Mahabhagavatas, the highly elevated followers of Sri Rupa Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is also the meaning of Tirthaspadam, when we take shelter of the Vani of the pure devotees. Shiva Virinchinutam, he who is worshipped by the incarnation of Lord Shiva, namely Advaita Acharya, and by the incarnation of Lord Virinchi, that means Sriman Haridas Thakur. Bhrityartiham, we discussed that he destroys by his causeless mercy, the misery of his own servant. And the example is the Brahmana Vasudev, the Vipra Vasudev, who was afflicted with leprosy in Chaitanya Leela. And finally, Bhavabdipotam, the means to cross over this ocean of samsara. How? Or the shelter of those who are freeing themselves from material existence, which afflicts the living entity in the form of hankering for liberation or material enjoyment. So even if we are bhuktikami or muktikami, those who take shelter of Krishna can cross over this ocean of material existence. An example is being given, who took advantage of Krishna's transcendental boat of Krishna's lotus feet are Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was actually muktikami, but who desired for liberation but became a pure devotee, and King Pratap Rudra, who was bhuktikami, wants all the enjoyment, but still desire of material opulence, but became a pure devotee after meditating on the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, we see all those Mayavadis who were Siddhikamis, and they were all actually the Prakashananda Saraswati and all his 60,000 followers who were liberated, who were turned into pure devotees by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So how important, we'll stop here, how important it is to take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. It is not something a whimsical concocted thought, but this is all from Shastras, and Prabhupada has explained extensively in the purport. Practically, this is just the one verse that we took from Srimad Bhagavatam. Every canto of Srimad Bhagavatam describes Krishna's lotus feet to be great. And we all know, and Prabhupada has extensively given his purports to those verses. We don't have time to discuss all those verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, but this was just the one verse that I saw is very important. So I wanted to share. Thank you all so much for your patient hearing, patient listening. I know must have committed a lot of mistakes, but you as Saragrahi Vaishnavas, please try to take just the essence and leave the rest. And please forgive me. So let's move on to any questions, comments, any corrections. Please go ahead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Caitanya Bhagavat ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hari Bol. So nice and beautifully you explain about the Lord's Charanavind. I want to say, but before I want to say, I can ask some or devotees who have that question or anything, then I will do. Mataji.
Sure, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Kirtida Sundari Mataji, what a beautiful class. Very, very nice. Thank you for describing in detail. And I really appreciate you also, pulling up Prabhupada's purports to give us so many references about the Lord's lotus feet. So it was a very, very interesting class, Mataji. I learned a lot. So thank you so much for this endeavor. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Priti Vilasni Mataji. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Yes, Bhakti Prada Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for so wonderful class, Mataji. Mataji, I have a question regarding lotus feet only, Mataji. So sometimes it is said we have to keep the lotus feet of Lord like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or else Radha Krishna. So it is said, but how to keep that in heart, I don't understand. Even Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is there, but how to keep
how to keep the lotus feet in the heart?
Yes.
How to keep the lotus feet in the heart means always meditating on the lotus feet. Like I was reading the verse in the Mangalacharan, right? That how it says, I'll just show you. I'll share my screen. This is the verse that I was reading in Mangalacharan. Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Kala Patho Jani Brajita Sadbhaktavali Hamsa Chakra Madhupa Shreni Viharaspadam Karnanandi Kaladhvanirvahatu me Jiva Maru Prangane Shri Chaitanya Dayanidhi Tavarasa Leela Sudha Swardhuni. So what? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes this as an invocation prayer in his Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he writes, "O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges waters of your transcendental activities flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue." My tongue is a desert-like. It's what he says, the word maru, jivha maru prangane. Prangane means the area, the courtyard, right? Maru means the desert. So my desert-like tongue. But beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers. And what are those lotus flowers? The singing, the dancing, the loud chanting of Krishna's holy name. These are the pleasure abodes of unallied devotees. These are the viharaspadam of all the devotees. And what are this? Chanting, dancing, chanting Krishna's name and singing. These devotees are compared to swans, ducks, and bees. Then these ducks and bees, they are always hovering around Krishna's lotus feet. And the rivers flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears. Such a beautiful words, right? So this is how we keep the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna in our heart. By always meditating on Krishna's Leela, by always singing his glories, by always chanting his holy names, by taking shelter of Krishna's pure devotees. This is how we keep Krishna's lotus feet in our heart. Keeping Krishna's lotus feet in the heart is both. Literally also, we should always meditate on the lotus feet of the heart, that just how the tulsi that is there on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and that the fragrance that was coming out from that tulsi leaves can make even the Brahmavadis, the 4 Kumaras, into the pure devotees. So how beautiful is Krishna's lotus feet. So in this regard, I was thinking that once when we attended the seminar by His Holiness Sachinandan Swami Maharaj, he was also telling that when you are chanting, at every mantra, you just meditate that you are offering one tulsi leaf at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. Every mantra feel like that you are offering one manjari, one tulsi manjari at the lotus feet of Shri Krishna. So this way, when you complete that 108 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, means one complete mala when you do, you have already offered 108 manjaris at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. So this is also literally true that we should meditate, but figuratively also it is true that how we should always try to sing the glories of Krishna, chant his holy names, and meditate on his qualities. And this way we will always be able to meditate on Krishna's lotus feet. So this is how important is Krishna's lotus feet. Actually, our Srimad Bhagavatam is also described, the first and the second canto, as the Krishna's lotus feet. We go to Srimad Bhagavatam, in one of the purport, Prabhupada writes that the first and the second canto are Krishna's lotus feet. The third, fourth canto are Krishna's thighs. Fifth canto is Krishna's navel. Sixth and seventh canto are Krishna's arms. Eighth canto is Krishna's chest. Ninth canto is Krishna's neck. And 10th canto is Krishna's smiling face. 11th canto is Krishna's forehead. And 12th canto is Krishna's crown. This way, entire Srimad Bhagavatam is actually non-different from Krishna's form, right? So how we also have to take shelter first as we go to the temple and see only Krishna's lotus feet and then move upwards. Prabhupada says, similar fashion, take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam first and second canto first, then jump to the 10th canto. And taking shelter of first and second canto means, what is there in the first and second canto? It's only Suta Goswami describing the glories of Sukadeva Goswami. Then Sukadeva Goswami describing the glories of Sri Guru. So how we have to take shelter of the pure devotees? When we take shelter of the pure devotees, Krishna is always pleased. Krishna's lotus feet is always embedded in the heart of a devotee. Because we have to take shelter of Krishna's pure devotees. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadat nagati kadho. So this is how we have to keep Krishna's lotus feet in our heart, by chanting Krishna's name, by glorifying Krishna's pastimes, by meditating on Krishna's leelas or Krishna's forms, Krishna's beauty. Hope that helps, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you very much for clearly making me understand this thing. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you. Okay, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Very, very beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much for detailed explanation and the glories of the lotus feet of the Lord, and how to achieve that lotus feet is the only option is to hearing from Guru and serving Guru and serving the pure devotees. Thank you, Mataji, for such a beautiful class. Very grateful to you for this beautiful class and pulling out the Srimad Bhagavatam verse and explaining us in very detail. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you for your association.
Mataji, chat questions are there. Did you find, Mataji? There is one question. How to offer the food if there is no tulsi leaf?
How to offer food to Krishna if tulsi isn't available? Yes, in winter time when Krishna's tulsi Maharani is not available. So what we do is that in summertime when there is ample amount of manjaris, you can pluck those manjaris and you can dry them. So those dried manjaris and dried leaves, you can use it in winter time when there is no tulsi. And if that is also not the case, then it is also said that you can take one tulsi stick, and you can dip it into those food offerings, and then you can offer. Just touch that tulsi stick to that food offering, and then you can offer. So this is how you can offer. But best is to make sure that you maintain one tulsi plant. One tulsi plant should always be there in the home. And it is very, very important. You should maintain at least one tulsi plant and try to protect during the winter times also. But if unfortunately something happens and you are really bereft of tulsi leaves, then either you can take the dried leaves, which are equally potent. Tulsi is such that even the leaves fell down on the ground, it doesn't become impure. Even the leaves that have fallen on the ground, you can take them, you can wash it, and you can offer it. So it doesn't get impure. And if nothing is there, then tulsi stick works. Hope that helps. Suksagri Mataji saying, keeping lotus feet and heart also means with utmost humility. Yes, bowing down to the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava is actually showing our humbleness, is actually showing our humility. That's why we bow down, right? We bow down because we want to show our humility, that we are so humble that we respect you in every manner. So bowing down itself is the sign of humility. And bowing down to the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, or bowing down to the lotus feet of pure Vaishnavas, is a sign of humility. Yes, thank you, Mataji. Vrinda Gopika Mataji.
Oh, sorry, she was unable to unmute, Mataji. Now she is able to.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Koti Koti Danpat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Gopinath ki jai. Mataji, your class is just charge our battery, Mataji. And Vani Seva and Vapu Seva, when we hear Sisi Bhagavatam from senior Vaishnava, like you, HG Pritivilasini Mataji, HG Suksagari Mataji, all the senior Brahmachari. Mataji, we learn so many instructions from all of you, Mataji, and we can chant our round more and more attentively. And Mataji, because of father-in-law and mother-in-law, respected Ma, responsibility from 5 years not able to enter in Shridham Vrindavan. From childhood we enter every year with Ma, Papa, Nana, Nani in Shridham Vrindavan. So feel so bad. But today we hear, and before that also hear one brahmachari, that whenever you hear Shishi Bhagavatam, Shishi Caitanya Bhagavat, Shishi Caitanya Charanamrut, whenever you hear the Vani of H.H. Radhanath Maharaj, H.H. Jai Pataka Maharaj, or H.H. Bhakti Charu Maharaj, today we feel that much potency, because in Gopinath, all Maharaj came before Kartik month, that H.H. Bhakti Charu Maharaj is given class, that much potency. Whenever we hear the Vani, and Mataji, I feel so bad that because of our material responsibility, not able to enter in Shridham Vrindavan Dham. But when we hear Vani from pure Vaishnava, Mataji, we enter Shridham Vrindavan Dham by that Vani, Mataji, that much potency in your class. And second thing, my husband also feels that we are not able to enter Char Dham Yatra from 7 years, and not able to enter in Shridham Vrindavan Dham, but feel so blessed, Mataji, that every day when I'm working, that time also I am able to hear Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Sri Chaitanya Charanamrita morning class, not able to sit chanting, but I can hear. Hear all the Vani, Mataji. Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Gopinath ki jai. So much potency in your class. Please place all of us that this Kartik one able to enter in Shridham Vrindavan Dham, Shri Mayapur Dham, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. No words to your sincere seva.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Yes, we'll definitely pray, Mataji, that you enter the Srimad Vrindavan Dham, Mayapur Dham, or whatever your desire is, that this Kartik may you fulfill all your desires. And as you said, that even hearing the Vani of a pure Vaishnava, not a person like me who is just croaking like a frog. So definitely not. But hearing the Vani of the pure Sadgurus will definitely help us to enter into Sri Vrindavan Dham. So thank you for your association, and we'll pray for your good health. Hope you feel better, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, then I see in one of the chat.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, and Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Please go ahead, Karmodiki Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Very, very nice, very nectarian class that he gave about the nectar katha. And I have to say, this is very, very nice, beautiful. Lotus feet are everywhere, in all the different places. In that verse, everywhere the lotus feet are very nicely explained. And another thing that I studied, make the prayers before the class. So those verses, I like to memorize them, but sometimes I just forget the words. So is it possible you can send me or somehow?
Yes, Mataji, sure.
The
prayers of Caitanya Bhagavat?
Yes, Caitanya Bhagavat and glorification of Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah, sure, Mataji.
Yeah.
I'll send you, Mataji. Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Just very nectarian class. I had to do so many things, but then still I said, no, I just had to stay. I just stayed up to now, and I just came, brought the computer in the kitchen, and then started doing what I wanted to do. Thank you, Mataji. Very, very nice, wonderful class.
I really appreciate that at this age also you have so much desire of memorizing those verses in glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's so wonderful, so wonderful. So yes, definitely, Mataji, I'll send it to you.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. All your classes are like this nectar. Sometimes I miss it, but then I hear the recording later on. It's very nice. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you so much for this wonderful, very nectarian class. Thank you for churning out the glories of the lotus feet of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Mataji, I just had a small question on, so you said that if just meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord is sufficient, we don't need to even go further beyond that to the different limbs. Can you please elaborate, Mataji?
Yes, sure, Mataji. This is, I heard in one of the, 1 minute. Can you give me a minute? In the meantime, we can chant.
Sure, Mataji.
Somebody can take the chanting. I'll find out the verse where it says.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna Krishna,
Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Rama
Krishna, Hare
Rama,
Krishna,
Hare
Ram Ram, Hare
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare
Krishna,
Ram Ram,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Ram.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, I'm not able to find that verse. In the morning only I read that verse. It's from the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam. Maybe I can share it later in Dulekha Mataji, where it is mentioned that those who meditate on the lotus feet and they are so absorbed. Actually, every limb of Lord Shri Krishna is so potent. So those who get absorbed in the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, they don't even have to move further to see the other limbs of the Supreme Lord. And very beautifully Prabhupada mentions in one of the purport in Srimad Bhagavatam I'm missing that. And I read it in the morning only. But I'm sorry, I forgot to note down the actual verse number and the chapter number. So I'll share it with you. Okay, Mataji?
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Mataji, can we progress in Krishna consciousness even if we aren't able to go to temple or get association of devotees? Of course, Mataji, why not? A temple is important, yes. But even if we are not able to go to temple, just by getting the association, because see, why we go to the temple? We go to the temple to get the association of the devotees. And if that association we can get here on Zoom call, sitting at home, then of course we can progress. We can progress because it's just the association of devotees. And sometimes, even if we don't get the association of devotees, we have the association of the books, right? And these purports of Srila Prabhupada, they are the direct instructions to each and every one of us. They are the direct instructions. If we take those purport and see that, oh, this is what Prabhupada is talking to me only, then we can work on it. And then Prabhupada's purport itself is, we are associating with the pure devotee like Prabhupada, because Prabhupada says these purport are not the ordinary purports. These are the dictation given to me by Sri Krishna, right? So we are already associating with the pure devotees through the purports of Srila Prabhupada. And that's what the progress happens, yes. But at the same time, we need to get crushed. We need to get churned. And in order for the carbon to come out in the form of a diamond. And that happens when we literally physically come in contact with the pure devotees. So that churning, that conflict resolving, that happens when we are in the personal association. So that is also very important. But at the same time, it doesn't become the only factor for our progress. Our factor for progress is just the association of devotees. And when we do these devotional services in the association of devotees, then yes, progress is certain. Hope that helps, Mataji. Yes, Bhakti Prada Mataji, you have another question?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, how do, while reading the shlokas, how do we make notes of it? Like, we should write down in the other book, the shloka is nice. How do we do, Mataji?
What I personally do, Mataji, is when I come across any shloka from Caitanya Bhagavata, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, I make a note, a separate note of it in my copy. And then I start, meditating on that verse. I literally see the word by word. Then I see the purports of Srila Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and make a note of it. And I normally put a headline that, okay, this verse is on anger. Then whatever verses I find that are suitable, then I put the headline on that anger and I put those verses under it. And if somebody is like for Mahatsevan, like for the worship of the devotees, then there are few verses that describe the glories of the seva of the pure devotees. Then I put on those headline and put those verses. And if it isn't simply the glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then yes, those verses that glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then those verses that glorify Nityananda Prabhu, then those verses that glorify Srimati Radharani. So this way, with different headlines, I make a note of it. And whenever needed, it's easy to catch forward it. So that's how I do, Mataji. That's just my humble attempt.
Yeah. Thank you very much for letting me this, Mataji. Like we have to take like diary of different.
That copy, the writing notes is very, very important. Very, very important because our memory is manda sumanda madbhagya, right? We are so unfortunate. Our mati is also not so sharp that we just remember once we read. It's difficult. So whenever we do anything, whenever, even for my class, whenever whatever is needed, whatever the notes are there, I save them. I save them for my future references because even when I speak, I tend to forget. So this is how writing is very important.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you very much for sharing your experience, Mataji. I would love to do this, like taking a 5-page notebook, something will be there, right, Mataji?
Yeah, 5 subject notebook. Yeah, you can take that. And it is very important, like it's my limitation that I'm not a tech savvy person, so I cannot type. So it's a benediction also for me, because when you write with your own hands from a pen or pencil, then it gets embedded into you. And where you type, somehow it slips. It slips. Yeah, you can notice that when you write it with your own hands, you are able to memorize that shloka very well. But when you type, it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah,
so
and
sure,
also,
write it down.
yes,
Yeah. And even for memorizing the shlokas, my Guru Maharaj always said that how to memorize shloka. He said that first line, like if it's a 4-line shloka, then first line repeated 3 times, second line repeated 3 times, and then 3 times repeat the first and second line together. Follow the same pattern for third and fourth. And once you memorize all the 4 lines, make sure you write it down 3 times. Then probably you will be able to keep it in your mind. 3 times you have to write it down without seeing. So this way you will be able to memorize the shlokas also. It's a tough job. But that's what Guru Maharaj instructed me.
It is. But main thing what happens in Mataji, sometimes we write, normally what I used to do, I used to write on papers, and this paper used to scatter somewhere. And is like offense also, right, Mataji? And it
no offense as such, but yeah, it has Krishna's name. I'll not say, because especially in Kali Yuga, it's so hard. We get so many calendars, so many pictures, and Krishna's picture are there. So what you can do is you just have to shred it. So, but the point is, don't worry about the scatter point or offense point. But the point is, everything has to be at one place. So try to note down in a copy rather than on some random papers.
Yes, Mataji, definitely. Thank you very much, Mataji. Mataji, and thank you very much to Kaumodaki Mataji also, Dandavat Mataji. Thank you very much. Because of Mataji only, I got to ask this question. And Mataji, can you share me also Mahaprabhu's this shloka of I can see the video and take the screenshot also later on, but if there are some other prayers also for the Mahaprabhu, so can you please share me?
Yeah, sure, Mataji. Unfortunately, I don't have your number.
Yeah, I'll ping you, Mataji.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji, you can share it to me, Mataji. I'll put it in the description box. If you are recording the audio, you can send it to me, Mataji. I will make a video.
Okay, sure, Mataji.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anything else? Okay, if nothing, then as we all know that His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami Maharaj has already left this planet and entered into his Nitya Leela, serving Srila Prabhupada in the eternal abode. And I'm seeing in the chat box that we are having from 1 to 5, we are having the chanting session, right? So yes, 1 to 5 Eastern time, we'll have this chanting session in honor of His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami Maharaj, who was very famous for his kirtans, for his classes. You can go to YouTube, you can see his kirtans, such a mind-blowing kirtan he does. And of course, his classes, and he was the temple president for Vrindavan, ISKCON Vrindavan, India, for many, many years, and was a warrior actually in Prabhupada's army. So in honor, what I was thinking, that since there are 21 participants, including me, I know if somebody has to leave because the session is already for 1 hour and 40 minutes, then please, you are more than welcome to leave and join the call at 1 o'clock as per your timings. But if you all are okay, then together here, at least these 21 participants, we can chant 1 round and dedicate this entire round. Of course, this entire Caitanya Bhagavata class also in honor of His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami Maharaj. Is it okay? If we all can unmute and chant just 1 round together. I don't know whether 21 participants will join at 1 o'clock. So that's why I was a little greedy that now, since we are together, let's spend 5 or 7 minutes more in honor of Maharaj. Is it?
Sure. Wonderful idea.
Here, Mataji. We wanted to keep the live for 1 round chanting, Mataji. After that, we close the live.
What, Mataji?
No, I'm saying this one round we will keep in this class only. Next, again, I'll make a fresh live for the when we
record. That's okay, because everybody will be unmute. That will be a whole. Everybody will be chanting, so the voice will not be 100% clear. But could you stop the recording for a second? So we chant one round.
Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Ram,
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram
Hare
Ram,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Ram
Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Ram Ram Ram,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Ram
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna, Hare
Ram
Ram,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram,
Hare
Hare Ram,
Krishna,
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Ram, Ram Ram,
Hare Ram,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Ram
Ram,
Ram,
Ram Ram,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Ram,
Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram,
Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Ram,
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna, Hare
Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram,
Hare
Ram
Ram,
Ram,
Ram Ram,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Ram Ram,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram, Ram Ram,
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna,
Ram Hare Ram,
Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Hare Ram, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Ram Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Ram Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Ram,
Krishna,
Ram Ram,
Hare Ram, Ram
Hare
Ram, Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna, Hare Ram,
Hare
Ram
Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare
Hare Ram, Ram
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Hare Ram, Ram Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram, Hare Ram, Ram
Krishna, Hare
Ram,
Ram, Ram
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram,
Krishna,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram, Ram Ram
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Hare Ram, Hare
Ram
Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare
Ram Ram, Ram Ram
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Ram,
Hare
Ram Ram
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram
Hare
Ram
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Ram
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Ram
Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram
Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare
Hare Hare
Ram,
Rama
Ram Ram
Ram Ram, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Rama
Krishna,
Rama Hare Hare Krishna
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Rama
Ram Ram
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama
Krishna,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Ram, Ram
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram,
Hare
Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama
Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram
Krishna Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Rama
Krishna,
Rama
Ram,
Rama
Ram
Hare
Ram, Ram Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama
Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Ram, Ram
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna Hare
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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram
Krishna
Ram, Hare
Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Ram,
Krishna
Ram
Krishna Krishna
Ram Ram,
Hare Rama
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Ram,
Krishna,
Ram
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Ram, Hare
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna
Ram
Krishna
Ram,
Hare
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 Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram
Hare
Ram
Ram, Hare Ram,
Hare
Ram
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare Hare,
Krishna,
Ram Ram Ram,
Hare
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 Ram Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram Ram,
Ram Hare Ram Ram
Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram,
Hare Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram
Hare
Ram
Ram
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Ram Ram
Krishna,
Ram Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram
Ram
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Ram 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 Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram,
Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare
Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare
Krishna Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram,
Hare Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Ram
Ram Hare Ram
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 Ram,
Ram Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Ram Hare
Hare
Ram
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 Ram Ram,
Hare
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Ram Ram
Ram
Ram
Ram
Ram,
Ram
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna,
Ram
Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram Ram,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare Ram
Hare
Ram.
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Ram,
Ram Ram
Hare
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram,
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram
Hare
Ram
Ram.
Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram,
Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram Ram Ram, Krishna, Ram Ram Ram,
Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram,
Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram
Krishna,
Ram
Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram,
Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram
Krishna
Ram
Hare
Ram Ram Hare
Hare Ram,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Ram.
Krishna
Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare
Chaitanya
Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare
Hare
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram,
Dear devotees, so thank you all so much. Thank you for your thank you so much for your association. Thank you for this, accepting this request. So we'll stop here now. Vancha kalpatarupascha kripas Ananta Koti Vaishnavrin Jai Sundari Dasi
ठाकुर की जय
Jai Gaura Bhakta
Jai.
हर ग्रेस कीर्तिदा
Sundari Mata ji ki jai.
हरे
Thank you, Mataji. Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण माता जी सो मच थैंक यू।